Hey, what's going on? Welcome to RelationShots, a place to get practical relationship advice that actually works in your relationship. If you have not already downloaded your free guide to intimacy, hit the link in the description area below. What this is a little guide that'll help you evaluate 4 areas of intimacy in your relationship and then give you some practical ways to strengthen the relationship. Simple, easy, effective. Grab that if you have not yet. And if you have not yet bought my book, RelationShots, I don't know what you're waiting for. You like the video content? The video content is in a book with some couples questions and some ways for you to apply the concepts we talk about on this channel real easy. So go grab that on Amazon if you haven't done it already. All right, in this video, what I want to talk about is 3 beliefs that you've probably been told about marriage, that you may believe about marriage, that is dead wrong and is not helping serve you in any way. Now, what I love about weddings is one of the things people often do at weddings is they run around with a little video camera and they're like, give the bride and groom your best relationship advice, right? And so people drop all the stuff that they've heard that they think works, like, always date each other and always kiss each other bye before you leave because you never know when it's the last time. And then you get all kinds of other advice that works specifically for the couple, but ain't gonna work for most other couples. Like, we always pray and do devotionals together every morning at 6:30, which works terribly if one of you is not a morning person and sets you up for failure because you're never gonna keep that kind of thing. Or they'll give you other advice about family and in-laws. And what happens is you get all this advice, and a lot of it sounds good in principle, but the practical application of it actually hurts you more than it helps you in the relationship. So I'm gonna give you 3 pieces of marriage advice that you have probably heard, maybe even believe, that's dead wrong. And if you're doing it, it's serving you poorly. So I need you to stop today. So bad advice number 1 is don't go to bed mad. Right? You hear that all the time. Don't go to bed angry. You want to make sure you resolve your conflicts and you guys are both happy when you get into bed. And you probably heard stories of how things don't go real well when you get into bed angry. A lot of that is because men and women are wired so different, right? And physiology tells us that women have recurring thoughts that often they can't control and men can compartmentalize. So that's why the dude hops into bed, starts snoring, and the wife's sitting there wide awake thinking about all the issues they got and getting more and more angry because he's sitting next to her snoring, sleeping like a baby, like there ain't a worry in the world, to which she wants to wake him up to have the conversation. I can tell you 100% of the time that never goes well. So don't do that. But we love this advice, don't go to bed angry. Especially church people love it because now they've got a Bible verse, Ephesians, to back it up, where it says, be angry, do not sin. Don't let the sun go down on your anger. It might give the devil an opportunity or a foothold. And the idea is simply, man, if we go to bed angry, then the devil's going to get in there and mess us up. So the principle is right, that if all you ever do is have a pattern of going to bed angry and not dealing with anything, going to bed angry and not dealing with anything, at some point, shoving all that stuff under the carpet makes the carpet so big that we're going to have problems in the relationship. But most couples, even though when you survey them, they say, oh yeah, that's great advice. Most couples, if you ask them, do you actually operate by that advice, would tell you no, because a lot of couples find that when they're angry and emotions are high, they're not real successful at resolving conflict. Or if they'll go to bed, give some time and space, and come back and revisit it, most couples have a better time at resolving the issue when they come back to it later. So the key to this principle, this idea, is not that you don't get to go to bed angry, because it's actually more helpful to go to bed angry many times because you're not going to resolve it that night. The key is, do you come back and revisit the issue? If you don't, we're going to have problems. If you do, research has shown that couples who report as being highly happy are couples that say it's often better for us to calm down, to get some space, to go to bed, and to come back the next day or 2 days later if we're too busy that day and revisit the issue. We have a much better chance of resolving it when we come back and the emotions aren't high, we're not flooded, and we're not saying things out of anger that we really don't mean and exasperating the main issue by adding other issues to it. So if you have believed the advice of don't go to bed mad, I'm here to tell you, go to bed mad sometimes. It's okay, as long as you come back and revisit the issue later. So that's really the most important thing. Do you come back and revisit it, Or does going to bed mad mean we're just not going to talk about the next day? We're not going to talk about any other days, and then it just keeps building up. If you're doing that, that is not a healthy approach. Bad advice number 2 is don't keep score. Now, the reason you get given this advice is because most people are focused on the fact that when you keep score, you're keeping a ledger of the things you feel like you're doing in the relationship, and then you're now comparing those things to what you feel like your spouse is doing in the relationship. And then you're walking away frustrated and resentful because you feel like you're doing more than they're doing. Now, I know from personal history and working with a lot of couples that everybody's tendency is that we over-evaluate our contributions to the relationship and we under-evaluate our spouse's contributions. So when you're keeping score of what they're doing versus what you're doing, you're actually setting yourself up for failure, and you're probably not real accurate because you're overestimating what you're actually contributing. So when people say don't keep score, that's because they are assuming that you are keeping a record of your spouse's wrongs and then using them later in the fight. But research has shown that couples who are happy and successful in a relationship actually do keep score. The difference is they keep score of what they feel like they owe their spouse, not what they feel like their spouse owes them. So they're actually keeping score of their indebtedness to their spouse, not of their entitlement, what they feel like their spouse owes them. And if you're keeping track or keeping score of the things your spouse is doing, what you're grateful about your spouse, the virtues and attributes of your spouse that you love so much, you will arrive at a place where you feel like, golly, of all that they do for the family, of all they do for me, of who they are, you know what? I'm looking for opportunities to give back. I'm not keeping score of what they aren't doing and what I am doing so that I can feel like they owe me. I'm keeping score of all the great stuff, and that leads me to a place of saying, you know what? I think I owe them, not in an unhealthy, codependent, I'm operating out of shame way, but just out of a place of, you know what? Of my gratefulness. I'm indebted to you and I want to serve you in the relationship because of that. So I would tell you, do keep score, but make sure that you're keeping score of the right things. Struggling couples keep score of the wrong things, what you're not doing and what I am doing. Happy couples keep score of the right things, what you are doing and what can I do for you. And they're giving back out of the virtue of generosity, which I did a whole video on. But when you're being generous, you're not assuming that you're doing anything to get anything back. You're simply giving because it's the right thing to do. You're being generous. And so happy couples actually do keep score. But they keep score of the right things. And it's not what they're contributing, it's what their spouse does. And that gives them a heart of wanting to give back. And the third dumb idea, bad advice, that many of us have bought into is that we should be brutally honest. You know, just like tell it like it is in the relationship, right? We should be so honest in our relationship. In fact, people would say, you know what? I should have a relationship where I can be totally truthful, where I don't have to pull any punches, when I can just tell it like it is, when I can be truthful, when I will even throw in, I can speak the truth in love to the other person. The problem is, most of the time when we're being, quote, brutally honest, we're being hurtful with our words. We're cutting, we're attacking, we're criticizing. And research has shown that happy couples actually value kindness over being brutally truthful and honest with their spouse. There's something to the words we use and how we use them that is more important often than what we say. It's not so much what we say all the time, but it's the tone, it's the words that we use. And so for a lot of people are like, well, I should just, I got to be able to be honest. And when I say, you know what, you need to learn to walk in kindness, and it's not always best to be brutally honest and tell it like it is, to which the pushback is going to be, oh, so I just have to walk around on eggshells in my relationship. I can't say what's really on my mind. I can't say what there's, no, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying maybe you should lead with kindness instead of this focus on just being truthful and brutally honest with everything you say. People are going to be more receptive when we lead with kindness in a relationship. Should we be truthful? Absolutely. But when your spouse is asking you something, or when your spouse needs correction on something, my question is, what is the approach that you're using with them? Is it to, I just got to say it like it is, I just got to be brutally honest, I just got to tell the truth? Or do you care about their heart, what's going on, and want to lead with kindness? And happy couples understand, successful couples understand that the deeper the emotional conversation needs to be, the more important the kindness and the words need to be used. And unfortunately, it's the opposite. Couples tend to, the deeper the conversation, the more important the conversation, it often seems like the language gets more critical and more attacking. In fact, it's sad to say that many couples talk to each other in ways they would never talk to a friend or a boss. So I think you need to ask yourself before you talk to your spouse, would I say it like this to a friend? Would I say it like this to a boss? Would I say it like this to my parents? Because if you wouldn't, you probably don't need to say it like that to your spouse. So this whole idea of just be brutally honest, just tell it like it is not going to serve you well in the relationship. Happy, successful couples lead with kindness and understand that kindness is a virtue that's important as we tell the truth. So if you want to be successful in marriage, you need to learn to walk in truth with kindness. And a lot of people don't understand, I just tell the truth in love. Well, your love is not kind. Your love is kind of mean. Your love is kind of rude. Your love is kind of critical. And so you need to learn to walk in kindness. So there are 3 pieces of bad marriage advice that you may have bought into. Don't go to bed angry. Be brutally honest. Keep score. And so I'm here to tell you, go to bed mad. Just come back and resolve it when people are calmer. I'm here to tell you to keep score, but keep score of the good things your spouse does and their good qualities. And don't compare yourself to them and keep a ledger. Just focus on what they're doing. And you know what? Don't tell it like it is. Don't keep it 100. Don't keep it real. You know what? Lead with kindness in your conversation when you're telling the truth. And you will find your relationship will be more successful. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Did you buy into any of these 3? Do you operate in any of these 3? Or maybe drop some other advice that you've heard that is terrible marriage advice. And then at some point, why don't I just put together a book called Bad Marriage Advice, Things to Stay Away From, and we can write the book together. So anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts. If we can help you in any area of your relationship, we'd love to be a part of your relationship journey, whether that's being a part of our marriage membership community, jumping in one of our classes, courses, any of the other resources. We'd love to help strengthen your relationship. Until next time, we'll see you right back here on RelationShots.